Yes, it is cheaper. But let's calculate how much cheaper and discuss why. Many projects you find on YouTube are made with cedar fence pickets. This is for two main reasons. So one reason is going to be that cedar is a nicer wood than pine in most applications. It really beats out pine by being more weather resistant and by having that nice aromatic smell that everyone loves. And the second reason is that it's going to be a lot cheaper than most of the other upgrades from pine. So think of woods like maple, walnut, ash, or cherry. Those are all going to be a little pricier. So yes, it's a lot less expensive, but let's calculate how much it is. We're going to compare these by board foot. The board foot measurement standardizes how much volume of wood you're getting for the price. So we'll calculate how much the picket is and then compare it to a local lumber store here in Indianapolis. So to quickly calculate this, I'm going to use this website here. I'll link it in the description if you're interested in checking it out. So let's go ahead and fill out the standard dimensions for a picket. So we've got 6.25 inches for the thickness, 5.5 inches for the width, and then basically 6 feet long. We won't count the dog ears for this. So that's going to get us to 1.7-ish board feet. Now let's jump over to my local lumber store. For this comparison, we're going to be looking at Northwest Lumber here in Indianapolis. That's where I go when I'm looking for higher end lumber for nicer projects. So in their domestic section, we can see that they're listing this aromatic cedar 4/4 at $4.95 per board foot. So at $4.95, we can plug that into our calculator. And we're going to get that this picket, essentially, if it was sitting on their shelf, would be $8.51. So when we compare that to what they're selling these for at Lowe's, you can see here the 5/8, 5.5 inches, 6-foot picket cedar are going to be $2.58 in my area. So $8.51 divided by $2.58 is over 3 times as expensive for the same amount of cedar. And then one more calculation we can do here is the $2.58 divided by 1.7 board feet is $1.50 per board foot. So essentially at Lowe's you can get cedar for $1.50 per board foot. That's some pretty cheap lumber. So let's jump back over to the Northwest Lumber site here and see if anything compares or even comes close to that. So quickly looking through here, the two things I see are this basswood at $3.95 and then something like the sassafras at $4.25. These are still about 3 times as expensive as cedar. So really nothing compares with how cheap these pickets are. So really that's why these pickets have such a huge draw for woodworkers. You're getting that upgraded piece of wood for not even close to the next closest option. But now let's talk about why these are so cheap in comparison. There's really two main reasons here. The first factor here is going to be the availability of trees. It's easier to find trees that are large enough to cut out these boards. Pricing by the board foot really doesn't account for a larger, more rare piece of wood, which should naturally be more expensive. But if we jump back to the local lumber store here, you can see that they do charge extra for boards exceeding 11 inches of width. You're going to add $2 per board foot to the price. We can also see that thicker boards are more expensive per board foot. So for cherry, you've got 12/4 for $16. And then if you go down to 4/4, you're down to $7.25. So over twice as expensive to get 3 times as thick wood. These relatively narrow and thin cuts can really maximize the amount of wood you're using for that log. That's going to bring the manufacturing price down and really help lower that cost. The second reason that these are cheaper is that they're not sawn to the same standards as the nicer boards. The ones we were checking out at Northwest Lumber were S2S, or surfaced two sides lumber. This means that the wood is being sold at a certain thickness and that 2 of those faces are going to be parallel. That means the edge faces are going to be rough and going to need some additional milling. So when you buy those boards, the face is beautiful and really nice. You just have to joint the other 2 sides to get what you want. If you take a look at the pickets at the big box stores though, they are pretty rough on the surface. Often they're going to have significant warping, and they can even be pretty wet still from the mill. These are all issues that you're paying the lumber store to fix and are baked into the price. So what does this all mean? Basically, keep buying these cedar pickets and using them in projects where you think they're going to work. It's a great deal for the amount of wood you're getting and the quality. However, when you're ready to pick up some nicer wood, be sure to check out your local lumber store. They're likely going to be cheaper and have a better selection than the big box stores. If this video is helpful, be sure to drop a like if you want to see similar content in your feed.